That number one, folks, is standing for the first loss of the New York Mets season, that being a series loss, losing 2 of 3 games to the Seattle Mariners this weekend. How's it going, everybody? Thank you all so much for chiming in for the latest post-game show here on the channel. I'll be breaking down what was a roller coaster, not just game, but overall series for the Mets. But today, losing 8-7 in heartbreaking fashion. I have so much to say about this game. I have negatives, I have positives, I have everything that you could possibly imagine in between that I'll be breaking down, analyzing what just transpired in this 8-7 loss, an overall series loss for the Mets, as they are still, I believe, 10 games above 500 still. So we'll be breaking down everything that there is to know from this one. I want to know everyone's reactions. I know that we got a bunch of people already in here, so thank you guys all so much for that. I see a bunch of donations. I'll be addressing them soon, so thank you so much for that too. Please don't hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe on, helping us get to 100 likes, and then helping us get to, of course, 16K subs for the next short-term goal here on the channel. But guys, we got a lot to talk about. Like I said, I was not here yesterday, as most of you guys know. I was attending my brother's wedding. Thank you all so much for the kind wishes. I have to answer a lot of you guys through the community tab when I posted that update yesterday, and for anyone else on social media. But please know that I will get to you as soon as I possibly can. Really appreciate that. Had a fantastic time. The Mets today, this was a roller coaster game. However, watching them again, covering them after winning what was a roller coaster game too yesterday, 5-4. Patrick Mazeika magic, and he had some Mazeika magic there in the ninth today too, but unfortunately some bad at-bats towards the end were the reason why the Mets faltered today, along with just poor pitching that we saw in this series in a lot of ways. But guys, we got a lot to get into. I'm not going to waste too much time. I know we got a lot of comments, so I'll be getting them too. Again, appreciate everyone being in here. Really, really do. Continue smashing that like and subscribe on, as always, folks, as we're deep diving this game for the New York Mets. So guys, I figured, especially because of the fact that this was a game that ended so dramatic as it did, let's start by talking about that ninth inning, and then I will backtrack and just talk about the overall game and what led us to the ninth inning, shall we? Because I know that we're all raw in the emotion right now if you're here in the live stream, and of course for people on replay, I know that you're probably feeling a certain way too. And like I said, I definitely do see some donations. I'll be addressing them in a little bit, guys. And of course, for people on replay, after I'm breaking down everything that there's to know about this game, I'm going to cut things off, and then for people in the live stream, we'll be going upwards of 40 plus minutes today. I'll be answering your questions from there. But guys, let's talk about this game, shall we? Because that ninth inning, my goodness gracious, you always know that with the New York Mets and this team this year, you can never count them out. They're down 8-5 heading into the ninth, and you see they bring in a second rider who already got a save against the Mets earlier in the series. That was in game one that we covered on the channel. But today he didn't have it, and the Mets were rallying. We saw it right before our eyes, and we've seen this story before. The Mets did it in St. Louis, scoring 5 unearned runs to win that game there when they scored 5 in the top of the ninth. And the Mets did it in Philly not even a full 2 weeks ago when they scored 7 runs to get the lead in the top of the ninth after being down originally 7-0. So we had all these emotions. We know not to count this team out. And then you see what transpires there in the ninth with Eduardo Escobar, who is one for like his last 31 at least, gets a beautiful triple. The Mets' third triple of the day that I'll be breaking down here shortly, how the other triples obviously transpired that most of you guys know by now. But Eddie gets on third to lead things off there in the ninth, which was fantastic. Then Jeff McNeil wastes no time, gets himself an RBI single. That makes the game at that point 8-6. Then Patrick Mazeika continuing the Mazeika magic, getting a single that kind of hits off the pitcher, I believe, bounces JP Crawford, their shortstop, can't handle it around second. Everyone's safe, and just like that, the Mets have a couple guys on still with less than 2 out. Then you have Brandon Nimmo gets himself an RBI double. Beautiful opposite field hitting there by Nimmo to make it a 1-run ball game. Then the Mets, all they needed was a base hit. They had a runner there on third with less than 2 outs. Starling Marte comes up to the plate, folks, and JD Davis was the leadoff hitter in the ninth. He ended up flying out. So Escobar's triple was not a leadoff triple, but it was close to. But we get a Marte, and this, in my opinion, was the worst at-bat today, one of the worst. Everyone's going to be ragging on Alonso, and don't get me wrong, there's fair criticism. If Alonso did not swing, they'll be getting into in a second on one of those balls, then yeah, the Mets would have tied the game just by being walked. But here we have Starling Marte, and don't get me wrong, Marte had a phenomenal series. I expected him to. I talked about it in my series preview that Starling Marte is someone all of us Mets fans should be watching this series because he's a good matchup, especially against these lefties, believe it or not, because of his career norms against them, especially Robbie Ray, and that held true today. But in the ninth inning, against the reliever, He ends up striking out when all the Mets needed was an RBI sac fly. He didn't even need a base hit. He just needed to get it fairly deep out of the infield, and the Mets would have had a tied ball game. That is something that I feel is not getting acknowledged nearly enough. It's really frustrating me. I see people calling Pete Alonso the absolute worst things. First of all you schmucks doing that, shut up right now. If you're going to continue that talk, then by all means, go watch something else. Because if you think that Pete Alonso, again, don't get me wrong, that final at bat was a little frustrating, but for the amount of things that some of you guys are saying is just peak irrationality that is the base of being Mets fans. So to all you guys, they're acting like Pete hasn't single-handedly carried the Mets in so many games this year. Go take a walk, go get a breather, because you clearly need it because you're acting that out of touch. Marte was the worst at bat in this ninth, and I don't believe that Marte should be getting the type of bad words that we're seeing, of course, with Alonso, but I also do believe that Marte is deserved of the most criticism out of everyone here, because all the Mets needed was a sac fly there in the ninth to tie it. That's something where you have very little excuses as to why can't you do that. Marte, unfortunately, especially over the past couple weeks, he's been swinging right through fastballs so many times. It's unbelievably frustrating. And don't get me wrong, again, Marte had a great series. He really did. But that was by far his worst at-bat this series. And it was that frustrating knowing that that really was the X factor. Pete, who knows what would have happened, and maybe Marte at least got a sac fly there. Maybe he would have had a different comfortability out of the plate. Either way, then we got Pete Alonso there after Francisco Lindor intentionally walked. Talking about a ballsy move by the manager for the Mariners. It ended up paying off in the end as they brought in Diego Castillo in. But Castillo, who's walked like over half the batters he's seen, it feels like so far this year, comes in, and it's already 2-0 on the count, and it would have been 3-0, but Alonso, the one slider he should have held off on, he did not, and that ended up being his demise. So because of that reason, it was then 2-1 on the count, and then Alonso overall just was not able to get it. He strikes out by a check swing in the end, and man, oh man, was that frustrating. Don't get me wrong. I'm heated about it. It definitely sucks. I would have loved it if the Mets could have fully came back and rallied, at least to tie, to go to extras. You're not going to win them all, folks. This magic is not going to happen every game, even though it's felt like it has every game when the Mets have started rallying the ninth at least. This one fell short, but it doesn't change the fact of this Mets team, how resilient they are. But you can also make the fair arguments that, hey, where was the offense the past couple innings, right? The Mets went down in order, 1, 2, 3. The past 2 innings prior to that, 2 or 3, if not just 2. I think it was at minimum 2, if not 3 innings prior to that 9th inning. So they only have themselves to blame at the end of the day. But again, when it came to the offense today, the offense did show up. It just didn't show up enough against a Mariners team that, again, absolutely dominated the Mets offensively today in a lot of ways. They had 16 hits, an expected batting average of 330, 8 runs scored. They jumped on Cookie early. Cookie didn't have his best stuff, and he was still, again, they were taking full advantage of whatever they had to offer. And guys, I will be back in 1 second. I just have to go grab something, so give me 1 second, folks. Be back in 1 sec. My apologies for the delay. It won't be long. 1 sec, guys. Sorry, guys. I just had to go say bye to my family quick because, like I said, I was with them over the weekend for the wedding, and now they're all going, leaving out of state and stuff. So I just had to do that quick. But I got calmed down. I was just sprinting. My apologies. Talking about the New York Mets again, that 9th inning again, it sucks that they did not fully rally back. But I'm really proud of this team that they show that resilience that we have seen all year long. And I know we got donations. I'll be addressing them soon. Again, my apologies. I literally just sprinted like in and out of the house. So give me 1 second, guys. Whew. Okay, let's talk about now how we got here. What led to the 9th inning, right? Because this game, like yesterday's game where the Mets, of course, they were winning, 4-0, right? And then the Mets ended up blowing it. Seth Lugo giving up that bomb to Jesse Winker. Ties the game. Mazika got the, of course, beautiful home run to get the lead 5-4 yesterday. This was a similar feeling today. The Mets were down early in this one, and it started off, even though they had the lead in the beginning, Francisco Lindor with that solo home run. Lindor, who again hasn't necessarily had the best at-bats every time around, but he does have RBIs in the first inning of every single game this series. That's definitely a positive. Then the second inning, Mark Canha gets a hit by pitch, ends inning trying to steal second. That we saw there, a beautiful tag by J.P. Crawford, who is such an underrated shortstop, was originally drafted by the Phillies, that may you guys know. But then in the third inning, we saw Toro doubles, then scores after a double play because just based on fielder's choice, what they decided to do. At that point, it was already a tied game. But then we get to the bottom of the third. Tomas Nido walked, Marte doubled, and Lindor strikes out to end it. That was one where I was like, okay, would have been nice if the Mets could have got a run there. But then the fourth inning for the Mets, this is where things started to falter. And thankfully, it only lasted half an inning though, right? J.P. Crawford singles, Winker singles, Julio Rodriguez, the rookie, who went, 4 for 4 today with 2 runs scored and 2 RBIs. He was so good. I'm a big Julio Rodriguez fan. Even though it sucks that he's doing well against the Mets, he's just an absolute beauty. He was really, really fun to watch. I got to be honest with you, other than his poor base running in the beginning of the game. But they scored a bunch, and then a Mike Ford 2 RBI single, and then a Toro RBI sac fly. The Mets were down 4-1 heading to the bottom of the fourth, but thankfully they tacked on and even had the lead. Alonso with a base hit. Canha walks. JD Davis gets himself a 2 RBI triple. And that's why JD, I just moved him out of my top 5 for Wardy's, that being at number 1. Moved him to 2 because of what Nimmo did there in the 9th with the beautiful hitting. But I talk about, the Mets had 3 triples today, guys. The Mets had 0 triples entering tonight's game, if I'm not mistaken, or at least very little to none. And they managed to get 3, starting off with JD Davis, who was actually crazy, guys. If you look at JD Davis's baseball savant numbers, he looks like one of the most elite hitters in baseball, but he's been criminally unlucky and also has struggled with fastballs up in the zone, which is something he's been struggling with for over a year now. But no less, JD got that amazing 2 RBI triple, and then it continued right after that in the same inning. I'd never even seen something like that, because then you saw, Escobar walked after that, and then he takes second base after McNeil flyout, and then Nimmo gets himself another hit, that being a 2 RBI triple himself. Two RBI triples in the same inning. I've never seen that before in baseball. I'm not sure if you guys have. Just absolutely nuts. So the Mets had a 5-4 lead there. It didn't last long, however, because, of course, this is when Chasen Shreve was still in the game and probably should have came out of the game. This was where you could give rightful criticism, maybe some poor bullpen management. I understood what Buck was doing. Cookie Carrasco only went 4.1 innings today, and they really want to try to not eat too much of the bullpen, knowing that the Mets have a bullpen game tomorrow, Monday, probably with Trevor Williams starting because Tyler McGill is on the 15-day IL with something regarding, I believe, his biceps. Actually, I'm going to double check right now so I don't make sure I don't miss it. Let me tell you guys right now. But Tyler McGill, he'll be okay. He has showed a right bicep tendonitis, so he's on the 15-day IL. Will probably need a rehab stint after that once the inflammation's down and he's cleared. So Tyler should be back within 3 weeks. It sucks to lose him, but thankfully there's no tears, nothing terribly concerning there. But because the Mets have a bullpen game tomorrow, I can understand Buck trying to drag on his relievers maybe a little bit more than he should. But that ended up being his demise today as well, because then you saw Julio Rodriguez getting his 2nd home run of the season. First against the Mets, of course, an absolute bomb to left field to tie the game there in the 6th inning. And then, of course, the man who literally had a 2 for 33, I believe, so far this season, backup catcher Rayleigh for the Mariners, gets a 2-run bomb to right field, no doubter, off Drew Smith, of all people. Drew Flo, who's been amazing for the Mets this year, gave up his first run a couple nights ago, however, and gives up a bomb there, and that was really frustrating. He was only caught with 1 earned run because the other runner was on because of Chasen Shreve, but still, at that point, that is really where it started to break things open against the Mets in this one. And then the 7th inning, Jesse Winker, who Mets fans either love or hate. Jesse Winker, I gotta say, I wouldn't mind you being a Met one day, baby. I know they talk nothing but positivity about Mets fans. We go back and forth with them all year long. Very different than how us Mets fans feel about Paul Sewald, because Paul Sewald is trying to be a villain when in reality he's just a schmuck that was a beyond mediocre reliever with the Mets. Literally had to fine-tune his arsenal to even stay in the MLB when now was acting cocky because he threw 3 scoreless in this series. Versus Winker, who of course had that big hit in game 1 that gave the Mariners the win, had that game-tying home run yesterday, and got another big hit today for them. Again, a double, and then Rodriguez with an RBI single off Joely Rodriguez there So every Mets reliever, every Mets pitcher today gave up at least one run, and that is what led us to the ninth inning in which the Mets fell short. So what I will say about this game and about this series, this was a roller coaster. The Mets were truly tested. This was a Mets team that did not have the best pitching. Cookie Carrasco, again, Cookie didn't have the worst outing in the world today, but he also didn't have his stuff. And unfortunately, that was poor timing, considering, again, the Mets need to have a bullpen game tomorrow. Like, they don't have an excuse. They have to. So we saw Colin Holderman make his debut for the Mets today. I'm sorry, he was the only reliever for the Mets that did not give up a run today, which was awesome to see. Colin Holderman making his debut, the 6'7", I believe, 2016 draft pick, if I'm not mistaken, an absolute beauty. Gave up 2 hits, but still a scoreless inning for the Mets there. And if we go through the numbers again, Wardy's top 5, folks, before we start to get to the lineup for the Mets and also starting to answer all your comments, donations, and concerns, I got to go with Brandon Nimmo as my number 1 starter today. Nimmo, you need to extend this man. He has been absolutely lights out on the season. 887 OPS, back to over 300 on the batting average. 2 for 5 with the triple and the 3 RBIs. And Nimmo also, again, didn't just have that massive triple right after JD in the same inning in the bottom of the 4th, but again, had that clutch opposite field RBI double to keep the Mets in it and have them only down by a run. I mean, Nimmo, if it isn't for him, the Mets don't get anywhere close in this game. JD Davis, again, 1 for 4 with the triple, the 2 RBIs, and the run scored. Francisco Lindor, 1 for 4 with the home run RBI run scored. Lindor, again, didn't have the best day at the plate, but I will say that it was nice to see him get that bomb in the first. Jeff McNeil, 1 for 4. McNeil should have had that home run yesterday. Don't get me started. I'll rant even more if I need to. That was such a ridiculous call. Not call, I should say, but dead in ball, because the balls are just falling that damn short in the warning track. Same thing when Nimmo had an over 900 expecting batting average there in the first. Should have had a hit there and did not get it. But then Eduardo Escobar, he asked me my 5th star. It feels nice having Eddie finally back in Wardy's top 5. This man has not been able to hit a lick for literally like 2.5 to 3 weeks now. Eddie got a walk today, got that triple in the 9th to start the rally that fell short, unfortunately, by a run, and a run scored. So overall, that is really what you guys need to know about this game. I'm going to start answering your comments here soon. We'll be talking more about Paul Sewell. We'll be talking more about this series, and I'll be answering all your donations. But for the Mets, this was, again, unfortunate. They lose their first series of the year. I got to be honest, though, I feel fairly spoiled, guys. It is May 15th. We are just exactly right around a month and a week into the season, and the Mets finally lost a series. Not that I wish it, of course, but it took a while to get here, okay? And I know that the Phillies have won 3 straight against the Dodgers. I know that the Braves have. I know that a bunch of teams in the division have been playing well. And obviously, they're quickly finding themselves up in the standings before you know it. This is a series that, yes, you absolutely should have won. It sucks that you didn't, but now it doesn't matter. Now you just have to focus on a massive Cardinals matchup, which I'll be doing a massive series preview on early tomorrow. Stay tuned for that, folks. 4-game set. That's going to be huge. But for people in the live stream, which is all you guys, continue to let me know your thoughts. I want to hear it. But for people on replay, this is where I'll be cutting things off. So, guys, please make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about the Mets losing a heartbreaker today, just falling short in that rally, 8-7? And overall, they lose a series for the first time this year. Make sure to let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you felt about Cookie as well. Again, Cookie gave up 4 earned over 4.18 pitch. Not the best day for Cookie, but again, it was just one of those things. The Mariners came out guns a-blazing. This was by far not just their best offensive game of the series, but one of their best offensive games of the entire season. So make sure to let me know your thoughts, guys. For people on replay, I'll cut things off now. But again, for people in the live stream, I'll start answering all your questions.